Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jeff Hoffman is going back to the Blue Jays, this time as a back-end reliever. It's a 3-year, $33 million deal. There are incentives that could push it to 40 million. Blake, this is your team. It isn't the big bat that you've been searching for, um, but it is going to be a good addition, at least on paper. What was your first initial reaction to Jeff Hoffman going back to the Blue Jays?
Yeah, it was weird. It popped up on my phone, just a picture of Jeff Hoffman in an old Jays uniform from like 2014. I'm like, what is going on here? And then a couple minutes later, that tweet came out that you're seeing on the screen there. So, yeah, it's obviously a huge signing for the Jays. Obviously, the back end of the bullpen was a major issue last year, right? They bring in Sandlin, they brought back Jimmy Garcia. Now you bring in um, Jeff Hoffman, and all of a sudden the back end of the bullpen looks pretty good. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, this guy's been one of the best relievers since getting out of Coors Field. Obviously, was part of that Troy Tulowitzki trade back in 2015. He was a ninth overall pick in 2014 by the Jays. So, yeah, converted starter, now an elite reliever. A lot of swing and miss, got a nasty slider. Yeah, it's going to be a big add to that back end of the bullpen for sure.
Yeah, and the Phillies ironically signed Jordan Romano, who was the Jays closer the past couple of seasons. Obviously, he was hurt a little bit last year, but
Yeah,
I think it's important for us to kind of check out over the past 3 years how these guys pair up because it seems that Jeff Hoffman is going to be the closer for the Blue Jays this year, potentially.
yeah,
Romano does have slight edge in the WAR, but um, you know, Hoffman has 30 innings pitched more. He has a 2.7 ERA, ERA plus of 157. He strikes out a ton of guys. 30% clip on that. They walk around the same. I mean, 8.6 to 8.7. So you're getting a similar guy in Romano who had a lot of success in Toronto. Uh, so I mean, I was surprised when we pulled this up that Jeff Hoffman, Jordan Romano paired up like this.
yeah. No, I wanted it to be a surprise because I knew we were going to do this. And looking at it now, it's interesting. It's very interesting to see the comparisons. But yeah, it's kind of ironic how these two guys just basically switch spots. Obviously, Romano goes to the Phillies on a 1 year deal, and obviously Romano has had his injury problems. And I guess we should say we forgot to mention that Jeff Hoffman actually agreed to a 3-year, $40 million deal with the Orioles, and the Orioles kind of balked on that because of his physical, and then he ended up signing with the Blue Jays for a little bit less money. So I thought that was interesting. Forgot to point that out, but yeah, it's quite the comparison between these two for sure.
Yeah, I thought what was interesting was Jeff Hoffman all offseason was reported that he wanted to potentially start again. Or as it comes out now, it's more so teams wanted to potentially use him as a starter again. So
Right.
it seems like there were reports that we're not going to pull up here, but that the Blue Jays don't envision him stepping into a rotational role, which means that we'll just get there for a second. Yarael Rodriguez, who's another kind of back and forth bullpen to starter guy, is penciled in to be their fifth starter right now.
Yeah.
They do have Hoffman penciled in as their closer. He did have 10 saves last year. I'm sure these will get changed. They do have him projected zero saves right now,
Yeah.
but give him some time. I'm sure they'll update that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, he was a very, very talented pitcher, one of the best relievers in baseball last year.
Yeah.
Two-win player to a 2.17, 10 saves in 66 innings, struck out a ton, a 12K per nine there. Yeah, this Toronto Blue Jays team just spent 11 million on a reliever. So, Blake, I hate to burst your bubble now. Let's go over that payroll. They're going to have to go over the luxury tax.
Yeah.
They're at 238. They have $3 million. They still need two bats at least. They did settle with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at 28.5.
Yeah.
They did well in arbitration. They settled with everybody. They
Yeah.
didn't go to arbitration with anybody. So Um, with that said, it makes sense that they'll go over the luxury tax this year because if they do suck,
Yeah, you
you
just
know,
trade Vlad.
you're trading Vlad and you're trading Bo Bichette, and you probably get underneath that luxury tax. So they do have flexibility to go over. But what is the next move in your opinion? I mean, if pencil or I don't know, predict two guys, or maybe you're just dreaming for two guys, but if there were two guys that you can choose to plug into this lineup, at least a little bit real, be realistic a little bit here,
Yep.
who would those two guys be?
Well, for one, Santander is a perfect fit. Obviously, you got a DH spot that's wide open that's occupied right now by Will Wagner. No disrespect to Will Wagner, he cannot be your DH going into this season. You slot Santander into your DH role there behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It lengthens the lineup, but like you're banking on Ernie Clement to replicate what he did last year, 12 homers, and you're banking on Joey Lopefito to find something at the plate. He's obviously a big part of that Yusei Kikuchi trade last year with the Astros, but the bench is thin. They still need a backup catcher. You still need a couple bats. So Santander to me is a perfect fit. I would love a guy like Alex Bregman at the hot corner. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, the Blue Jays were pretty calculated last deadline. They traded all their pending free agents. They got under the luxury tax, and now, like you said, they have an opportunity this offseason to go over the tax. Right, this is the last year of Bo and Vlad that you have under control. So you gotta try and maximize this year as best you can. It like you bring in Jimenez, you shore up your bullpen. This team is one or two bats away from actually looking at this offseason and saying it's actually not bad, but they need two bats. Otherwise, I don't like the offense at all.
Yeah, I think some other names that pop into my mind, and they're not going to be as flashy, would be, like a Jerkson Profar, potentially taking a gamble on JD Martinez I know they did the whole Brandon Belt thing a couple of years ago. Um, JD Martinez isn't going to cost much. That they're going to go over the luxury tax, but I don't think they have the money to go Bregman and Santander, and you just spent 50 million because realistically to me they still need a fifth starter. Maybe that's Jake Bloss who they traded for.
Yeah.
uh and there's rumors of them being interested in Jose Quintana.
Mm-hmm.
At this
Pivetta too.
point, yeah, at this point they're gonna need, well, if you go and get Pavetta, that's a qualifying offer attached too.
So is Santander.
So,
Yeah.
you know, well, Bregman, all those guys, they've been linked to Pete Alonso a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's if you go get Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you might as well just open the door and say goodbye.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, Jerks and Profar makes sense. He's going to be cheaper than Santander if you miss out there. JD Martinez, Ha-Sung Kim is going to shore up that defense. You're one of the best defensive teams in baseball already.
Yeah.
There's definitely some guys that are still out there. Jays fans, I'm sure you want the star. Out of the three left, Alonso, Santander, Bregman. If you choose one, you're choosing Santander?
If I did, if I have to choose one, I'd probably take Bregman. But the guy that makes the most sense for the Jays roster wise is probably Santander. So,
All right.
but
Well, I
yeah,
mean, what I mean, it's tough.
they're in a tough
How are
spot.
you selling Alex Bregman on Toronto Blue Jays at
Here's
this point?
here's the Jays problem, okay? And we'll try and keep this short so it's not a 20-minute video. But I don't understand the logical from the front office. Like, if you want to be in the Otani sweepstakes and you wanted to be in the Juan Soto sweepstakes and you're in on all these free agents, like, wouldn't you think that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signed to a 10 to 12-year contract and be like, hey, like, this guy's committed to us. This is what our plan is. Like, it's just like I feel like they're just flying by the seat of their pants, throwing all this money at somebody and hoping somebody will take it. It's just not a calculated plan. And obviously it's great to land a guy like Hoffman on a multi-year deal, but it's just like, what's the plan here? Like I as a fan, I just have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, this team does need to get a little bit more left-handed.
Yeah.
Nathan Lukes isn't going to be your starting outfielder.
Well, Varsho's coming back
Maybe
right away. Yeah.
maybe Joey Loperfido. Um, I think. Santander or, as I mentioned, Jerks and Profar fit this team the best.
Yeah.
Both of them are not great defensively, but like you said a second ago, Varsho is coming back. He's one of the best defenders in baseball. So,
Yeah.
um, there's also some other things too. I mean, you have an aging George Springer. He's 35. He probably needs the DH a little bit. Bo Bichette's coming off of an injury last year. Can he bounce back? Most people, I would bet yes, but um, yeah, and then just even the power production here, 2025 projections, you have two guys
Over 20.
projected to hit over 20 homers. So they're lacking some power right now. They're young. They've made some good moves last season, but some guys have to pan out. So an interesting team. I think that's gonna do it for this one. You got any
Nope.
closing thoughts?
Nope. That's it. It's a good
All
signing day
right,
for sure.
I agree. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this one. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. As always, we appreciate you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next one.